Hello and welcome to Beyond the Box Art, the podcast where scale models get built, paint gets spilled, and nothing ever quite fits. Benchmates, please welcome your hosts Paul Pendleton-Brown, Mike Baldwin, Mark Housley, Tim Mulvihill, James Nevitt, and Paul Wong. And we are joined this episode from across the pond by El Presidente himself, Tim Holland, from the Model Geeks podcast and Modelers Without Borders.
Hello Benchmates and welcome to episode 2 of Beyond the Box Art, the podcast for model makers who've mastered dry brushing, stash hoarding and the fine art of gluing your fingers together. Now, full disclosure, we're recording this before episode 1 has gone live on the 22nd of May, so hopefully you've enjoyed what you've heard and you're sticking with us as we strive to improve. Well, we couldn't get much worse, could we? So, episode 1 was a bit of a baptism of fire for all of us, both learning how to edit a podcast for the first time, stitching together 2 recording sessions as we weren't all available, and editing out the annoying pen clicks one of us was making in the background. Weren't you, Mark?
Yes, it was me.
Hangs his head in shame. Also a big hello to anyone who's joined us off the back of my conversation with Digger Dave on the bench. Cheers for tuning in and good on you, mate. And this week is a special one because we've invited our very first guest to join the madness. We've joined by none other than El Presidente himself, Tim Holland. We'll talk to Tim about the origins of Modelers Without Borders, how kits are helping well-being worldwide, and what it's like balancing global charity work with spruce snipping. And he's also got an exclusive announcement for us, so stay tuned for that one. Plus, we've also got your regular fix of new kits, books and banter in this week's Stash Inflation Report, as well as Wongy's wisdom. So settle in, uncap the glue, and prepare for a full throttle journey through the hobby as we all love. So, for the first time, we are all together at the same time. As you may have noticed on the intro, we've been joined by an additional member to the team, James Nevitt. Welcome, James, or should I say Nevs? And can you give our benchmates a quick rundown on who you are and what you normally build?
Thank you very much, Brownie. First thing I've got to say is, and then there were 6. So as Brownie was just saying, I'm the newest member, a couple of years younger than the others, you might say. So I first started modelling when I was even smaller than I am now, and that was an introduction to the Airfix range, the little toy soldiers. So I started that with my best friend in school, and then that very quickly led into a couple of Airfix kits, the FW190 in 72nd and the P51. They happened within weeks of each other, so I can never remember which one came first. And then from there, as they say, the rest is plastic. So I was in and out of the hobby for a couple of years, but for about 12 years now I've been building. So my general rules are as I'll build anything historical as long as it's in either 72nd scale or 700 scale, which is obviously quite different. So the main thing I build at the moment is I build, to avoid being misconstrued, naval models, just in case there's an issue with mispronunciation there. So I build a lot of battleships, aircraft carriers in 700 scale. Definitely got a preference for the full hull. I think it's incomplete without. When it comes to 72nd scale, a lot of aircraft, massively into miniatures, the figures, so anything from the Romans up to the war in Vietnam is great. The occasional AFV, tanks and what have you. So yeah, my 2 big things at the moment, aircraft and ships.
Welcome, James. Welcome, Kev.
Thanks,
Benchmates, it's time for the Stash Inflation Report, the segment that proves your stash isn't too big, it's just economically ambitious.
This is where we talk about what's new and announced since our last episode. So I will crack on with aviation. And we're starting in the skies with Ammo has teamed up with Edouard for a rebox of their highly regarded FW190A5 in not one but two flavours, advanced and premium editions. Both include markings for 6 legendary aces, plus the usual high-end extras like the double-sided canopy masks, pre-painted photo-etched seatbelts, and resin wheels, propellers and exhaust stacks. The Advanced Edition ups the ante with a full resin cockpit, more pre-painted PE, detailed fuselage guns and resin gun bay, essentially a one-stop detail fest. Meanwhile, the Premium Edition throws in PE flaps, a resin photo-etched engine, and yes, a decent 3D printed pilot figure. Moving on, Border Models has surprised many at the Shizuoka show recently with their announcement of 2 1/35th scale kits, both aircraft, the P-51D Mustang and a Douglas Dauntless. Yes, 1/35th scale aircraft CAD renders look impressive, but it's still polarising move scale-wise. Do they appeal to the AFV modelers looking for a crossover, or are they just to confuse aviation purists?
I think it's to do with the diorama scales, because obviously with the two scales being slightly different, there's a lot of people, especially in competitions, that have done kits with a Dragon Wagon with a B-17 Flying Fortress on it, and doesn't look right. It's slightly oversized because the B-17 is bigger than it should be. So I think the way they're doing it is that they're appealing to the market where people are able to do dioramas. Figures are in 35th scale, so it's easier for them to get hold of than 32nd.
I'd love to see a diorama with a Dauntless in it. I mean, it's going to be on a carrier deck. It's going to be massive, isn't it? Or is that just me?
I've seen something very recently on Facebook, and I think it's what's the chappie called? 18 scale modelling or something like that. And he's done a Dauntless crashing into the sea.
I'll show up
with all the pilots getting out, and it's absolutely superb. That's in 35th.
Are you sure?
Oh, I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
I think I've seen something like that in 48.
I thought it was 48.
I seen a guy on YouTube from Portugal. He did the 118 in Dauntless. Huge.
Yeah, I've seen it. David Higgy, a friend of ours, did it a while back, and he did an amazing job of it. But it was huge. It was immense, that thing.
Border Models have done the Japanese naval aircraft with a carrier deck, which has got the control tower and the deck. So it may be in future, Border may look at doing the same for the Dauntless, either on Lexington, Enterprise.
Oh, there we go.
So, just to correct my own self, it's actually a 1/32nd scale.
That's not a Dauntless, though.
Avenger.
Sorry. Yeah, it's a... Sorry.
Come on,
It's blue and white. It got me confused.
Bother the entire US Navy.
Yeah. I mean, it was crashed in the sea.
Well, moving on swiftly.
At last.
Royal Wings have teased us with photos of a test build of a Ferry Delta 2. Now, the 172nd release is now in the shops. I can't find any reference prior to the CAD drawings and the test shots actually appearing online of any mention of a 148th version. So quite a nice drop and a quite interesting aircraft as well. Revell are at it again, reboxing their Hurricane 2 in 1/32nd scale with parts to build the Mark II C variant, so the new cannon wing is included in the box, but also optional bits to build a Sea Hurricane, which would be a nice change. Plus, they're also including a colour scheme for a King's Cup Air Race aircraft, which I think was Golf Alpha Mike Alpha uniform from memory, which was owned by Princess Margaret and flown by Pete Townsend from memory.
You know what colour his underpants were that day as well?
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Go on.
No, I don't know. I just I thought you were doing pretty well there at giving all information out. God, yeah. It's normally me where it flies over the...
Oh, dear. Anyway, also coming from Revell is their Arado 196 in 1/32nd scale. This is virtually unchanged from the original release, but they apparently have made a few tweaks to the decal sheet. And next up, this I think is going to be an interesting discussion piece in itself. Red Pill Models, new company, and it's going large. they've announced a completely new tooled 1/32nd scale F4B Phantom 2. This beast comes with, complete with 14 sprues, metal landing gear, 3D cockpit decals, 3D walkway decals, and no less than 3 full decal options. It's currently up for pre-order at an eye-watering price of €340. But considering the scale and the feature set, Phantom fans might consider it worth the investment. But the question for me is, why for a Turkish company to actually model an F4B to start with rather than the E model they've got in service, which I would have thought would have been far more interesting. I know we've got the old Tamiya E, but
Very hard to come by is the E's.
Stock availability.
so yes, it's going to be interesting to see how that one's actually received and if this is just going to be the B model they produce or if they're going to produce any more of them. But we wait with bated breath on that one. Okay, Airfix has quietly re-released their 172nd B-17G Flying Fortress with 2 new decal options. The RAF Fortress Mark III option is a welcome inclusion, especially with the rarely seen 214 Federated Malay States Squadron markings. Also comes with a set of US Army Air Force decals as well. Beacon models are branching out with their RAF dispersal hut, now moving from laser-cut kits to injection-moulded tooling in both 172nd and 144th. Small stuff, but perfectly formed. Special Hobby has been particularly busy. First up, a new 148th Lysander Mark III SD conversion for the Airfix kit. It comes with new internal and external detail parts, 4 sets of markings, 2 RAF SOE machines, Special Operation Executive, and 2 INSEAC markings, which is Southeast Asia Command. So a little bit of variance there, plus some very nicely detailed extras, including the external tank, ladders, and a new spinner. They're also releasing a 172nd Vickers Wellington 1C, originally an MPM tooling that's had more publishers than a bestseller. After MPM, the molds went to Italeri, back to MPM, to Airfix, back to MPM, to Revell, and now to Special Hobby. Speaking of reappearances, the 148th E2839 is returning, although one wonders with the clear prop 148th example, which is absolutely stunning now on the market, why they've actually decided to re-release that kit. ICM have shown promising CAD renders, their upcoming 132nd Henschel HS123A1 late version. It's supposedly coming in July, though they've conveniently not said which July. Regardless, it's a stunning looking biplane, and I should imagine the 132nd guys are going to go absolutely nuts over that one when it comes out. Also, the long-teased 148th Handley Page Hamden Mark I is now expected in Q3 of this year. Inside the Armour 3, after discussing them in the last episode, have come out with even more bits for the 148th Airfix Jaguar. The Martin Baker Mark 9A seat for the 1980 onwards RAF aircraft, and the JRM-4 used by the French Air Force is now available for order. And Mike, I believe you got some late news that has just come out.
Yes, Brown, I saw within the last 12 to 24 hours, Laminar Floor Designs have just released a 1/24 scale conversion for the Airfix Mark 8, and that's to turn it into a high-back Spitfire Mark 14 detail, and it looks absolutely stunning, so it's definitely worth a look at. Just to be advised, though, he has announced that there's only going to be 30 sets available.
30. I can see a lot of people scrambling for the website to actually order if they haven't done so already.
They'll probably crash the website.
Okay, so moving on, and we'll go to the nautical theme with Nevs.
So let's take to the wave, starting with Special Navy. They're getting ready to release a 1/72nd scale KAFK Kriegsfish cutter, a World War II German patrol cutter. It features nice detailing and a long overdue subject for this scale. Now brace yourselves, Frog is back, and no, it is not just a nostalgic dream. Frog branded re-releases of the classic 1/600 HMS Repulse and HMS Prince of Wales are in the pipeline coming shortly. They were originally Airfix toolings from the early 1980s, but now they've been licensed and revived by Hobby Bounties, who now own the Frog brand. This is the first Frog release since their catalogue in 1976, which frankly deserves a round of applause.
And most of us will actually remember the 1976 catalogue, and I should imagine, Nevs, you haven't got the foggiest what we're talking about.
I remember the summer.
1976.
Yeah, absolutely no idea. Wouldn't have even known if it was the 1996 catalogue, which probably makes you feel even older.
Thanks for that.
I'll soon go off you, mate.
Moving on.
Moving on. So,
Did you say there was somebody else in the wings you could get here, Brownie? Isn't it? Just in case.
Yeah, absolutely, and they're replacing you.
Oh, right.
moving swiftly along. So for Jimmy, they're re-releasing their 1/700th scale Japanese heavy cruiser Miyoko. This will be a full hull version. It has had several updates over the years, and the most recent boxing in September 2024 had excellent out-of-the-box detail. It is expected to release in June of 2025. And last but certainly not least, Aoshima are joining the party with a newly tooled 1/700th scale Republic of China Navy destroyer Dan Yang. This was formerly the Japanese destroyer Yukikaze, refitted under Taiwanese command. So we can expect a curious hybrid mixing IGN elegance with US Navy upgrades. The full hull model kit is expected to release in August of 2025.
Fantastic. Okay, and moving on to boulders with AFV and reference material.
Thank you very much, Brownie. Ace have announced a new 1/72 Dodge WC-17 carryall, a nice subject that's often been overlooked in this scale, good for dioramas or even convoy scenes. Gecko models have shared CAD renders of the new 1/35 FV103 Spartan CVRT variant, complete with up-armoured turrets, reflecting its modern use by Ukrainian forces. Excellent choice of subject with real-world relevance. This one's just been announced today, is the SS model, are releasing a 1/72 scale plastic injection moulded kit of the new British Army Ajax fighting vehicle. The pictures do look very impressive, so it's always worth to have a bit of a search on that. Hobby Boss are releasing a 1/48 Challenger 2. There's one already in the pipeline, which is the standard version. That's due to be released in June. And this one is for the Optalic variant. So this will have the additional side armour, additional turret armour that they used during the Iraq and Afghan war. Right, now onto the book pile. Valiant Wings Publications have expanded their upcoming P-47 Thunderbolt title. It now sits at a whopping 288 pages, up from 272. Due to a photo influx and layout tweaks, the price goes up slightly to $29.95. But the pre-orders will be honoured at the original price of $28.95. It's delayed by about a week and it's due imminently. Mushroom Model Publications have announced a high-detail monograph on this Saab 105, freshly retired from the Swedish service, 240 pages in a compact A5 format. It's small, but it's mighty. Finally, from an independent publisher, Igor Donchik, we have got two new research-heavy titles. German Military Symbols Volume 1 and 2, covering over 1,100 tactical markings, symbols, signs, abbreviations, and map annotations. Panzer Camouflage Volume 1 to 3, featuring original artwork, unit markings, and field signage from the Wehrmacht between 1939 to 1945. A deep dive for detail lovers and rivet counters alike.
Sounded very professional there, mate.
Yeah, does somebody else come in the room?
Welcome to WIP, where bold intentions meet plastic reality, timelines vanish, and every kit is one step away from the well of tears.
Okay, work in progress. We'll go around the table and see who has been working on their stash allocation since the last time we had a conversation. So start off with Wongy. What has been on your workbench?
Well, I've not really progressed much since last time I spoke to you. I went on holiday or vacation, as they call it elsewhere. But the kit which I am still tinkering with is the Hella Maxi Catamaran, which is the PlayStation of Steve Fawcett's Ocean Challenge. So I'm still playing with that.
Okay, any progress? Has it actually come out of the box since you last were on the pod?
Oh, let's just say the whole pieces have been put together. And that's about it.
What's progress?
Very in water effects.
There will be water effects, but I'll touch on that later. But I can say to you now, it scores highly in Wongy's list with only 35 pieces.
Oh, dear.
Fantastic.
And for those that don't know, Wongy doesn't like kits with more than 60 parts or less.
60 parts or less, don't forget.
Okay, Tim.
Right. Well, I mentioned last time that I go and have a go at the old Jag from the 1990s, I think it is. I bought it from our friend Mr. Mark Housley there. I am growing to like this kit because it's looking very at the business end. It's put together, it's masked, filled, primed, all that. And it's got the underside pale grey. And now it's just waiting for its cam to look actually like it's on the home straight. So I'm really pleased with that. I'm also, for a little side build, I was looking through some stuff the other day and I came across a half-built Sherman Firefly from the starter kits that you buy in certain supermarkets. So I have no idea why I put it to one side, but that's going to be another little build while that's going on.
Fantastic. Okay, Mark.
Well, the little French thing that I showed you the last time is now complete. There it is, just for the people that can't see, now just showing off my little handy Moreau. There it is. Thoroughly enjoyed it, to the point where I'm actually looking at doing maybe a few more of these with old Hella kits. It really went together well. And the other thing I picked up is a very old, this was in a Rebel boxing.
Matchbox?
And it is originally a Matchbox. I think it's a Venom.
Sea Venom.
Sea Venom.
Sunday.
And this, I got given this off a friend of mine, and in bits.
Most kits normally are.
No, I mean, it does so much of it, and then it was one of them swap things where I thought I shouldn't have really bothered, but anyway, I did. And yeah, I've started to glue it together. It's not too bad. I'm enjoying it. I think I'm enjoying it because I don't care about it so much. You know, it's just one of them things. I'm going to finish. I'm going to throw a load of paint on it, and however it turns out, and I've not got that much into it, if you know what I mean. Invested in it, sort of thing. Yeah.
Okay, Mark, looks like you made some good progress there. So if you could actually take some photographs and upload it to the Benchmates Facebook page.
Well, I will do once I've improved a few of the joint marks and one or two other bits to make it look a little nicer. Yeah, I will do. I'll get some pictures up there
Fantastic.
as soon as I can.
Okay, moving on. Well, Nevs.
Yeah, so after much soul searching and wandering from my own proverbial wilderness after finishing the Musashi, wondering what to build next, I'm sticking with the 700th ships. So I'm building this one, 700th scale IGN Cruiser Kinugasa. It's a Hasegawa kit from way back in the day. And like I said earlier, anything from a destroyer upwards to me requires the full hull, which the Japanese manufacturers are loath to provide. So having taken up my recent interest in 3D printing, I am adding a lower hull 3D printed from my own design. So you've got half of it there already. The other half is just waiting to be glued on. It will be sanded down, got a bit of poly varnish on it. So I've been waiting to build this little cruiser for a long time. So I'm dead excited to do it. And a curious little trivia fact, after its last major refit, it was basically finished in the exact same version of Japanese naval grey that the Musashi was. So I'm just replicating the paints that I used on my last build.
Fantastic. It's looking good. And Mike.
Thanks, Brownie. Not much progress on the Jaguar. I've paints that are needed for it. So I've had to order some more. So that will be done within the next couple of weeks. And I've picked up something from the Shelf of Doom that's been sat there, about 12 months. And it's the one-time release, 1 to 32nd Revell JAS 39 Gripen.
That's looking an interesting build. We'll have to speak to our guest on the next episode to actually ask if they're going to re-release it. Two-seater would be nice.
The only problem with this one is because it was, as Revell did in those days, they released kits without looking at certain diagrams. And so it looks like a Gripen, but it's slightly out because obviously Saab made various changes over the trial and test period. So, but it'd be nice to see if they would actually do a new tool Gripen in single-seater and twin-seater, considering, the Saab Gripens in the news at the moment because certain countries worldwide are now looking to buy it instead of buying the F-35.
As I've alluded to, we do have a special guest on the next episode, and we'll talk about who it is later in more detail. So, with that, we'll go into our next section, Wongy's Wisdom.
It's time for Wongy's Wisdom, guaranteed to improve your models or at least make you feel better about them.
And here's my wisdom on Wongy's Wisdom. And so for this episode, I'd like to talk about something which I will at some point try and convert Nevs to, which is sea bases and how to produce a half decent looking sea base scape. So let me go down through the recipes first of all and the ingredients. So what you need is some household kitchen tin foil, some PVA glue, also a cup of water, a ready mixed, and obviously you're not going to get this in the kitchen, a ready mixed all-purpose filler, which is the stuff you use. It's called polyfiller, but other brands are available. Also, you will need a product called Liquitex Gloss Gel. Get it from your appropriate art supply shops. That's quite good. Try and get yourself either a 1-inch scraper or use an old credit card. That comes in handy. And finally, what you need to have is a baseboard for the actual seascape diorama. So I would recommend a 12mm MDF board because it tends to not warp as badly, but you can use... so as long as you got all these tools, grab yourself an old towel also and a heavy book, and I shall now tell you how to do it. So what you tend to do is you go through, grab your board, and you apply the filler against the board. And you can generally slap this on, not too fussed about accuracy. Just get the stuff pasted onto this, your baseboard, and smooth it out with the cup of water just by simply dipping your fingers into the water and just rubbing on the surface of the actual filler. So what this does is it gives you a outline, if you like, of the undulations of the ocean. Okay, so try and keep it, depending on scale of your naval model, try and keep it either pretty much flat or with small ripples, or if you're going to do something with a bigger scale, you will have to use a different technique for that one. Once you've done that one, you can take your tin foil and rip off a sheet which is enough to cover the whole of your baseboard, and effectively all you do is scrunch the whole thing up. So this creates a mini ripple effect on the surface of the water. So once you've got that one done and you unwrap it from the big ball of tinfoil you've got, you can now glue this onto your seascape. But before you do, mark out the actual hull onto your seascape so you can actually cut out what you actually need to sit the ship on there. Now, what you find with Nev's models is, especially the Japanese ones, they've produced their ships and it's completely flat. There's no extra bit of hull which you'd see in a destroyer, which would poke out of the water if it's going through rough seas. It's pretty much flat tabletop stuff. So with this, you can actually gently just pitch the ship and make sure that you've got enough of the seascape mapped out so that you can glue this on later on. So once you've done that, apply your PVA glue liberally onto the base, and you apply the tin foil on top. This is where your towel and a heavy book comes in. Because of the undulations of the filler, you want to place a old towel. Please use an old towel by all means. Don't do what I did and use a new one, because the other half will not like it. So get an old towel on it, put your heavy book on it, and leave it there for a day and let the thing glue together. Okay? Once it's glued together, you can easily trim off the excess using a knife. Just flip the actual base on its back and just cut away the excessive tin foil. When you have finished that one, you're into the painting techniques now. And I would recommend 3 types of paint. It's all from the Tamiya acrylics range. And this is, let me look at my notes, it's an XF17, which is sea blue, XF18, which is medium blue, and XF2, which is flat white. And the way you paint this, you can either brush it, which in that case, that's fine, or you can airbrush the thing, which makes it even quicker. Now, just as a word of advice, try and paint the troughs of your seascape in the darker colour, the sea blue, and as it rises to the actual waves themselves, you go into a medium blue, and then just the tips of the crests of the wave where it breaks, just touch it with a bit of white. So that gives you quite a nice effect there. And when this is all dry, you can then have the final piece of the puzzle here, which is a coat of Liquitex gloss gel, which when applied and dried, it gives it this most amazing sea gloss shade where it just reflects light, and it brings out the best sea effect you can imagine. And this is just using regular homemade elements and no resin involved. So it's good for the environment, this one. So there you go, Brownie. That's my tip of this episode, and that's how to do sea-based seascapes.
Please support veterans, service personnel and blue light services through scale modelling therapy. Visit modelsforheroes.org.uk, where plastic, paint and purpose come together.
Now it's my very great pleasure to introduce our first ever guest here on Beyond the Box Art, the one and only Tim El Presidente Holland. Tim's a former US Navy engineer who spent much of his service life aboard carriers, and he's been a scale modeller since 1965, so basically he's forgotten more about plastic than most of us will ever learn. These days he wears many hats: president of his local modelling club, co-host of the excellent Model Geeks podcast, and one of the driving forces behind the incredible Modelers Without Borders initiative. Let's be honest, Tim's real claim to fame? Last year he became the only known person to fly in a 2-seat Spitfire to Biggin Hill just to point out the inside of the cockpit door was painted the wrong colour. Everyone please put your hands together to welcome Mr. Tim Holland.
Welcome again.
Welcome, Tim. Welcome, Tim.
Well, thanks everybody. It's good to be here. I love the idea of more podcasts, especially for modelers, and it expands everything, right? It gives more people exposed, and hopefully grows the hobby, which is what we want. And I got to say, I'm really excited by. I look at the screen here and I see two guys that are definitely younger than all the rest by a lot, and that's a good thing.
Thank you.
Two. Yeah. Well, maybe Paul just looks younger than he really is.
That's true.
Oh, okay. James is definitely young.
Yeah, just a couple of years younger than the other guys.
Yeah. Couple of decades more like.
Yeah, true.
Okay then, Tim. So let's start at the beginning. What inspired you to create Modelers Without Borders, and what problems are you trying to solve?
Well, we'll start with the second question. The problem we're trying to solve is essentially we didn't like the fact that existing societies were essentially exclusive, and they were coming across that way, even though they weren't saying they were. We would hear words like, everybody's welcome to join, etc. However, it was starting to get very cliquish. And when we talked to young modelers, either they never heard of those societies, or if they had, it was all negative. So there was myself and a group of other guys last year started talking about how do we change that? And our first objective was how do we affect change from within? And ultimately, we decided that it was probably going to be a bridge too far, to use a term we appreciate over here. And ultimately, the decision was made as a group. It wasn't mine personally. I was unfortunately drafted to be the guy in charge, if you will, to be the president. I was just there saying, at what point do we make a decision on what do we do? If we can't go one route, we either disband and go back to modeling, or we try to do something that affects change from without. And ultimately, what we decided was we needed to create an inclusive society that welcomes all modelers, not just plastic modelers, but we include, as our part of our catchphrase says, if you make smaller versions of bigger things, then you're a modeler. And as far as we're concerned, you can be part of this society and should be. We also didn't want to have any limiting borders. So in other words, we wanted to be global and not stuck within a single national organization, if you will. Now, obviously, for cultural reasons as well as legal, we may have to have organizations within our national organizations within our organization, and we're still working on those. I know Canada and Australia are both working on that. In the U.S., it's a fairly easy effort because of the way our legal system is set up. It's fairly easy to create an organization that does exactly what we're doing. I hope that answered your question.
Absolutely. And regard to the name, have you actually looked at trademarking or anything like that? We've just gone down the route over here. So Beyond the Box Art is actually now trademarked over here. It's looking to expand worldwide just to protect the IP.
Trademarking is something we looked at initially and decided that we're somewhat protected in U.S. law. We can certainly, if we trademark it, essentially what we're doing is paying a lawyer quite a bit of money to make all of that happen. And we've got other things we'd rather spend our money on right now. Are we worried that somebody's going to take it away from us? We would certainly have legal standing for them to lose at this point because we've had it long enough. And we're very public with it, and we maintain it.
Fair enough. You need to get Kentucky Dave onto that.
Yeah.
Okay, so my next question is, Modelers Without Borders promotes mental health and well-being through modelling. How has the hobby helped you personally, and what is that message so central to MWB?
At a personal level, modeling gave me an outlet for creativity in a world that at the time when I was very young, frankly, really didn't want to recognize creativity. And the reason why is because where I grew up was very rural, and it was very conservative. And if you were not extroverting yourself on a football field, and that's American football, then you were nobody. And I was treated, as a child, I was treated very hard by my peers, the other children, because I was the geeky guy that played with plastic airplanes. Now, admittedly so, some of the other ones did too. But by the time they were 8 or 9 years old, they were ditching those and trying to play peewee football and move up the ladder as athletes. I did kind of sort of with them, but I was not very good. I'm not an athlete. I'm a brainiac.
I think we've all got the physique for that.
And I'm very introverted. So it was very easy for me to just stay in my room and melt plastic and sling paint.
Fantastic. Okay, Wongy.
Yes. Hi, Tim. You've built MWB as an inclusive global community. What challenges have you faced trying to unite such a diverse range of people across countries and cultures?
It's getting the word out. We've been doing this for about a year, and unfortunately, I'm not very good with social media personally, at a personal level. I can navigate Reddit fairly well. I'm at best poorly functional on Facebook. I very quickly, because of attention issues, I very quickly get routed down rabbit holes when I get on Facebook, trying to just do something simple, such as post a note or an announcement or whatever. And the next thing I know, it's an hour and a half later, and I'm wondering how I got where I got. So it's the challenge is getting the word out. The other challenge is too many people see our organization and they go, well, you're just a bunch of old white guys. And that's true, unfortunately, because most plastic modelers are old white guys, at least in this country. Now, only the ones that are, frankly, on Facebook, as well as some of the guys that are basically going to shows and coming across to our desk and asking us questions. That's an unfortunate thing, because I personally know of a lot of modelers who are either persons of color, they're different genders, they're young, just in my own club. And so I know they're out there. And of course, I always tell them, hey, if you got friends, please spread the word, and hopefully we'll expand more.
That's brilliant. Yeah, it sounds very similar to everybody's experience, I guess. As you mentioned previously about being in school, and it was almost like a hidden secret that you don't want people to know because it's not cool.
Yeah, exactly.
I know that feeling only too well. I was exactly the same.
Yeah. The first time, of course, I was in the Navy deploying a lot. And the first time I broke out a cigar box and opened it up and started putting some paint on actually at the time I was trying to build it, but taking a model kit and cleaning it up and trying to put it together in a little bitty space where I had no more than about the size of a piece of paper, note paper on the desk where I could work. It was amazing how many guys would come up and want to see what I was doing, ask me a lot of questions. And of course, most of them said, hey, I did that when I was a kid. And a few of them would ask, why are you doing that now? And I'd tell them, well, because it calms me down, and it keeps me from getting upset with some of my fellow sailors. and which they appreciated because I was an officer at the time, and walking around on ship, quite a few of them actually reported to me. So they appreciated the fact that it kept me calmer. And hopefully I convinced a couple. I did convince one guy to pick up the hobby, but the rest of them, and it was quite a few, did not.
It's always good to have a calm officer.
Yeah, exactly.
It sort of leads on to the models for heroes that we have over here. And I believe you've got something similar in the States now with veterans, etc., being helped with charities that are actually helping with plastic modeling, and mental health and mental well-being is becoming more and more to the fore. I know Models for Heroes over here is actually including the Blue Light services in the UK. I'm just wondering if you've actually got something similar now running in the States.
We're trying to. We've approached one of the organizations here, and they are quite amenable to us basically sending in a box that has essentially all the kit in it, so that if they wanted to send it out to someone, they could. And so we're trying to set up through outreach at least one person on our team, preferably one at each local club, that could basically be our front person at that level to send items in.
Mark, I believe you've got a question.
I have. El Presidente, my question. The hobby can sometimes feel a little bit intimidating or a bit elitist. I'm just wondering, what's MWB doing about that?
Well, we're basically trying to celebrate modeling at all levels.
Yeah.
When we do an exhibition, and the exhibition is has a jury section of it where folks want to actually get their models evaluated and try to move up the skill levels, if you will, we're going to place them at different tiers. So I'm talking off the top of my head, so I may get this wrong because I'm not the exhibition guy. But basically, there's juniors, novice, or beginners. Then there's intermediate, masters, and I believe we recently said we ought to include professionals, so that if folks are earning a living at making models and they want to be able to share their work, we certainly don't want them sitting their stuff down next to someone who's a novice, because that would be very intimidating.
Definitely agree with the last one, with the guys that do it for a living. Yeah. I've come across these guys lots of times, and you look at what these guys produce, and yeah, you don't really stand a chance.
No, not at all. And so I'm trying to remember every part of your question. So what are we doing about it? And that's part of it, is bring people in where they feel comfortable. That's something we actually nicked from AMPS. It's part of their judging criteria, is to have people at different levels. They basically determine on them themselves where they start, and then once they reach a point where they've gotten so many golds at a number of different shows, not all at the same show, but at different shows, then it's time to move them up to the next level.
I listened to the On the Bench podcast. I think it was last August, thereabouts. Mm-hmm. And you were still kind of figuring out what to do regarding, awarding award systems and the judging and how that was going to go. Is that all? So it's pretty much all sorted out now. You kind of know where you're going with it.
Yes and no. We think we've got it sorted, but it's all written down. It's published on our website, so it's available to folks if they want to see it, and certainly we'll continue to accept comments on it. But we're going to try and test it this summer. I know that this podcast drops after we've already announced this on our website, but it's which will be on the 1st of June is when we'll announce it. And then the idea is that we'll do a virtual show exhibition. It'll start on the 1st of August, where anybody who's a modeler, again, you make smaller versions of bigger things. You'll be able to register, pay a small fee so that we can pay for the website to be able to make it do the things we want it to do. And you upload as many as 10 photos per as many as 10 subjects, whatever those subjects are. And the individual registrant will choose which of those 5 will be evaluated. And of course, we'll then award a coin of some sort in a gold, silver, bronze. And I think there may be like a certificate of commendation as a next level down to recognize their work. And of course, it's going to be something that we can put into an envelope and mail out to them no matter where they are in the world.
Okay.
And that's our near term. It'll start on the 1st of August. They'll have about 15 days to upload all their pictures, but they'll have, 2 months prior to that to either build a new model or figure out which one on their shelf is going to be the ones they upload. And then after the 15th of August, we'll start evaluating. Because we have no idea how many we're going to get. We currently have roughly 1,000 followers. And then another 500 or 600 that are on our website as subscribers. And that we know that's a drop in the bucket compared to what's out there. So it's just a matter of who wants to register and upload their photographs.
And what's the web address for the site to actually find the information out, Tim?
It's modelers.org, and that's with 2 L's, the international spelling, modelers.org. And for our listeners, that was a concession we Americans made to the Canadians as well as the Australians.
And the British.
And the British, too. I know. Well, and there's pretty much everybody else. But at the time, those were the guys on our team that were pressing us. Spell it correctly. And ultimately, the rest of us said, yeah, that's fair enough. If we're going to be an international organization without borders, we need to recognize that a lot more people spell things a certain way than we do.
Okay. In the same way that you actually use a calendar that's completely different to everybody else in the world. We won't go into that now, Brain.
Yeah. Well, remember that I'm a military guy, so I have a tendency to use it the way the British do.
Yeah, fantastic. Absolutely. That's why I sent you the time in UTC.
Yeah, exactly.
Apologies for my colleagues with their questioning. No, you did answer an awful lot of questions there that I could have asked. You've talked really about a medium-term plan for Modelers Without Borders. Is there a kind of long-term, what does success look like in 2 to 3 years? More members, developing modelers?
Yes. So in 2 to 3 years, our long-range, mid-range to long-range goal is to have certainly a larger membership, a very large membership if with a number of different countries, not just English speaking. An international website that provides, regardless of language, ease of reading. We want to put an MWB Academy online where basically a modeler can go and look at curated materials, whether it be video, forum posts, blog posts, you name it, something that's online and available to help the modeler improve their skills. And in some cases, we'll host it ourselves, but in most cases, our vision is that we're simply providing the here's where the best of breed. Now, the way we'll do that is we'll get folks like Uncle Night Shift to agree to let us use some of his material, point to it where we believe that that's the best method of doing whatever it is that we think we're looking at, whether it's weathering or construction or dioramas or you name it. And so that's part of our goal. And then also to have as part of that academy, if you will, is an online section where members have their information deposited, and as they go to different shows, regardless of where they are around the world or locally within their country, or even locally within a region, basically it'll record what their model was, how well they did, where they needed improvement, and then be able to track that over time so that they can then if we get our system working right, they'll get targeted links that say, hey, based on your trends, you might be interested in looking at the following videos or documents that might help your skills.
All right.
That sounds really, really good. I like the idea of that a lot.
Certainly does, yeah. And I think one of the things that Tim is putting across, and we've all agreed with, is the benefits that modelling have for mental health. I actually said to somebody, I do it because it's something analog to do. I said we're not staring at a screen. We're all staring at a screen now, but it is something different to, like an earphone or what have you. So something analog.
And also, as part of our long-range plan is to be able to sponsor shows in person and be able to have our logo there and use a lot of the proceeds to help veterans in whatever country that show is occurring.
Tim, it's great to hear from you, and obviously I'd heard the various podcasts that you've pitched Modelers Without Borders on. It's really quite an inspiring story so far. So my question to you is, so you've pitched Modelers Without Borders as favouring collaboration over competition. I just want to get your thoughts on how you think that's going to look in practice. Do you think there's been obstacles in terms of getting people on board? Do some people, are they reluctant to let go of like the trophy mindset that typically these societies bring that you talked about at the start?
Yeah, so absolutely. There are modelers out there, and we recognize that it's all about crushing the competition. To quote someone on my own podcast, and we always say that in jest. We never that is not what we're about. We're about celebrating models. Excuse me. Which is what MWB is trying to do. So our focus is going to be on exhibitions. How they occur in practice is really going to be up to the local sponsoring club. What we'd like to see is something similar to the Rocky Mountain Hobby Expo or SMC, where the user puts their models together and puts information about themselves. And it's if something's going to be judged, it's maybe one or two items where the idea is that, let's not try and be a trophy hound and go home with, 10, we enter 10 models and go home with 10 medals. Let's enter a group of models with our name on it, indicate which ones we believe are the best 1 to 5. And then the judges find of those which one they feel is the best and award a medal based on the best they've got. And they'll get whatever that is, if anything. Did that answer your question? I think there was some more to that.
No, I mean, I think that really pitches to the underlying question. I mean, I think that instinct, that competitive streak, it can be really healthy. It brings out, our desire to improve our skills, and it comes naturally to the hobby. I think, looking on my sort of background as a historian, we're always really interested in looking at how the macro scale interacts with the micro scale. And what it sounds like to me, Tim, is that Modelers Without Borders is really interested in these macro scale relationships. And, I can only draw on our experience. We're all members of the same local branch at IPMS Bolton, that there is definitely that element of trying to push the collaboration aspect rather than just the competitive nature. But of course, there'll always be obstacles. And I think it is very difficult to remove the model from the modeler, and that perhaps we lose some of those stories when we prioritize the competitive nature of our hobby, that actually the context is so important as to why certain methods have been followed, why certain modelers prefer to do certain things, that looking at collaboration is where those stories start to come out. So looking at the story behind Modelers Without Borders, it'll be really interesting to see how you go forward in terms of developing those stories on the local level, providing kind of like a glue that can bring all of these diverse networks together. That's going to be really interesting to see.
Yeah, that'll definitely be a challenge. But it is something we want to do. And part of this is rooted in, of course, all of the different modelers, but my own experience with our local club. We've got a tagline that just says, "Let's talk models." And when we meet, that's all we talk about. We don't have business. We don't talk about money. We don't talk about anything. And if there's money needed, then there's a box put out that just, and I'll say, "Hey, we need some cash. Throw it in the box when you've got some time." And that's it. No more is said. And then we go around and we talk about our models. And at the end of the day, everybody that we essentially do a people's choice, where somebody walks around and says, "Yeah, I think this is the best model." They throw a little jack down next to it. I count the number of jacks there are, and that person gets a little trinket of a gift, usually a set of sanding sticks and some scalpel blades, or a 3D printed glue box of some sort. Yeah, similar to this. Well, you can't see it, but essentially, something that to me a bottle fits in.
Yeah.
They cost pennies to make, so it's easy to just knock one of those out and hand it off to somebody if they want it.
You see, Wongy's taking notes here because last week he was actually voted chair of the our branch of IPMS Bolton.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
I was thinking the same thing.
So they call me Tim, Chairman Wong. So
yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm looking at our local club and seeing taking ideas from yourselves of how we can develop it more, get more integrated with the people, with the members, make sure that our guys have everything they need for them to grow in skills as a modeler, basically. Because I said to everyone that the biggest critic of your model kit is yourself. It's not everybody else's opinion, it's your opinion. And if you're happy with it at that stage, then you've done it. That's it. There are various other ways of techniques that you will pick up as you progress through the hobby, but it's baby steps. That's the way we work. So yeah, so I look forward to stealing more of your ideas, Tim.
Yeah, feel free, because they're generally our club's website generally has plenty of information on it that kind of lends it to that. We talk about what our process is, what we focus on, and I'm trying to do the same thing with Modelers Without Borders.
So if someone's listening, Tim, to this and thinking, "I'd like to get involved," what's the best way for them to jump in and help or join?
Two ways. Two ways. One, they can go to the website and they subscribe. I think it should be set up, if I remember right, that if they're there more than about 5 seconds and they're idle, a window will pop up and say, "Hey, do you want to subscribe?" And once they're a subscriber, based on, I think, the cookies, it won't ask them again. Now, that's one way. The other way is that they can, in the contact form that's on there, or they can send it to president@modelers.org. They can just say, "Hey, I'd like to help." Now, what I would ask is that don't just say, "I would like to help," because I'm going to turn around and ask you, "Okay, what skills can you bring?" Because at the end of the day, we need all of them. I will share that I was finally able to find an IT guy to help with, because that was on my shoulders, being an IT guy, but not a very good one. And so it was on me to build some things with our website, and I was finally able to find someone that can really do it and get things working much faster than I can. I do a lot of searching online and using Google Foo to tell me the right way to do something, and then I figure out, well, if that's the right way, then how do I make that happen with the what I'm looking at on my screen, because it doesn't match what Google Foo told me to do. So it takes me a while is the point, and I'd rather be melting plastic and slinging paint. I also have someone by the name of Fred Backhoffner that's from the Netherlands that's recently joined the team, and he's helping with the look and feel of our website and how to get search engine optimization right, because that's something that I understand, but for some reason, no matter what I do, all the evaluations that I run on our website come back with, nope, you're not there yet. It's still yellow. You need to get it to green. And so he knows how to put the right kind of keywords and the right kind of places in order to make it better. So he's, it's all going to be volunteer, of course. But if anybody wants to help do things like be a native in some sort of social media, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, what's it called now? X, I guess it is. What are some of the other ones? There's TikTok, Twitch.
Yep. MySpace.
MySpace. Yeah. Some of these, some of these I'm hearing for the first time. And then, and Reddit, of course. I'm trying to figure out while I'm somewhat native on Reddit, I'm trying to figure out the best way to put our presence on there and get folks involved there, or just to keep them informed. And that's really what I'm looking at is twofold. One, share what you're working on, and two, know what we're doing and try to stay connected and know what else is out there. Because Reddit does have some really good subs on there for modelers that, frankly, I would recommend over anything else. So I don't want to replace those, and I don't want to compete with them. I just want to be a source of information. I hope. Does that answer that question?
Makes perfect sense. Perfect sense. Okay, well, I think we've just about exhausted MWB questions we have, unless you have anything you want to actually chip in, Tim.
What's on his bench?
Yeah, what's on my bench? Let's see. Well, you can't see it because I've got a bunch of boxes in the way, but I'm doing inventory while I'm working on some plastic. I've got the Big Plane Kits 72nd scale P8A Poseidon that I'm working on. I want to have it ready for the USA Nationals in August. I'm going to put it on a stick and put some decals that are from one of our sponsors, Furball Aerographics and
Furball Aero Design.
Aero Design, that's right. Furball Aero Design.
I was listening.
Is that the decal company?
Yeah. It's a great. Jeff's got a great decal sheet on the P8, and I want to put some decals on it, and then sit that on his table at Nationals to help.
So are you doing that in a like a flying, as in taking off or coming in, or just in the air kind of thing?
In the air, and I just received the Air Graphics bomb bay set, resin set that has an open bomb bay. So I'm going to open that up, and I'm going to angle it so that it's easy to see it without bending down too far.
Oh, brilliant.
And
don't forget the pilot figures.
I don't do that. What I'll do is I'll just paint the inside of the clear bits kind of dark, so you can't see inside, which is actually the way it is on the aircraft. It's very difficult to see inside from outside.
So what you're going to need to do, Tim, is when this episode comes out, is listen to Wongy's Wisdom, which is all about water techniques. This episode.
Oh yes, yeah, it is.
Good tie in there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and ultimately, if I've got the time, I want to, instead of just putting it on a stick with a wooden base, I want to put some water on the wooden base and maybe go get a 1/700 submarine and do it waterline and stick it on there. just to have a little perspective.
Sounds like a fantastic dio.
Yeah.
A modern day version of the Moosery by the sound of it.
Yeah, different. Yeah, but congratulations.
Yeah.
Right, thank you. So it would be, from the aircraft's perspective, not from the sub's perspective.
Exactly. Sounds really good.
Yeah.
Really good. James, you had a question, I believe, about Spits.
Yeah, a couple of questions actually, Brownie. So, Tim, the first one, the easier one. Have you got a favourite mark of Spitfire?
Yeah, Mark 8.
Mark 8, okay.
Don't even have to think about it. That was quick.
So, in a slightly similar vein, my favourites are the earlier Cannon Arm versions, Mark 1, Mark 2. Have you come across those? If you had any interest in modelling those?
So I'll share with you, James, that I've got 75 Spitfire models on the shelf completed. Almost every mark. I'm still working on some Seafires. I got a Seafire 45 that I'm going to finish hopefully this year. My objective is to have one of every mark like a lot of folks do, but also try and cover all the schemes, whether it be the early war, dark earth, dark green, the mid-war and late war, dark green, ocean gray. And then of course the fleet air arm schemes, all of that, all the way into the 50s on the 47. I've got a 47 that's got the extra dark sea gray over sky, already completed and on the shelf.
How come Spitfires?
What? How come Spitfire?
Yeah, you guys, it's usually P-51s, 47s.
So for decades, I've been doing this almost 60 years. For decades, the silver airplanes didn't do much for me. And part of the reason was because of all of the fancy decals that had to go on it. And I've never been very good with decals. Only recently have I gotten enough confidence in my decal work, mainly because I'm using quality decals now, is that, so I avoided them and was always kind of focused on other things, usually naval aviation. I think I've mentioned on the podcast that my interest is primarily naval aviation from about 1911 to 1955. And it's not just U.S., but it's all whether it's Royal Navy, Japanese Navy, French Navy, anybody else. And as I was building my list of what are the naval aircraft I want to do, one of the things that popped on there was Sea Hurricanes and Seafires. And I went out and I figured out what I needed to do to get a Sea Hurricane, built one. Okay, it's interesting. And then started doing a little research on Seafires and what it took to convert. I believe it was a Mark V to a Seafire 1.
How far back are we going now? What kind of kit was available at the time? What were we looking at?
So we're back in the late 90s, early 2000s. So in 72nd scale, I was looking at the Airfix Mark 5B.
Is that your scale mainly?
72nd, yes. I think it was 79 was when that kit was first released in that iteration. And it was considered good shape. And it's a fairly ugly looking model, but it's on my shelf. And since then I've acquired some better ones, and I'm in the process of building some better ones. But as I started doing more and more research to do that conversion, I fell in love with the shape of the aircraft, and then fell in love with the story. And I then got Spitfire: The History by Shacklady and Morgan, and I fell in love with more of each of the versions. And the Mark 8 is the one I see as the most balanced. It's slender, it's long. It just seems to be a beautiful aircraft. The Griffin series is Brute. It's got that big nose on it, and it's just with that big prop. It just looks rough and like it's ready to go to war. And of course, the early marks to me are they look like they're what they are, early marks. Like we didn't quite get it right yet, but we're still working on it.
So you're a bit hard pressed though, aren't you, these days, for a decent 72nd scale Spitfire kit? Apart from the Edward, the Mark 9s, I think we're pretty up there, aren't they? But apart
the Mark 8 and Mark 9 by Edward is the best there is right now.
Yeah. But your FEM stuff or even the special hobby, I mean, they're coming on, but they're a bit of a build, aren't they?
Yeah, for current effort, they're a bit of a challenge. You got to approach them as a limited run, which is what they are, which just means a lot of dry fitting before you commit cement, and then but once you do, it ends up you can get a really good result.
And you ever try the Fujimi ones?
Yes, I built all those, and they that's for the later marks, and I like those. The only thing that's negative about those is the cockpit. It's a
bit basic.
Well, it's basic and it's not accurate.
It's not even there.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not accurate.
Yeah. So I mean, it looks like a tub, not a nice open framed place where a seat sits and swing pedals.
So when you do the kit, do you do the cockpit open so you can see in, or do you close it all up? Or
I've done a couple that are open, but whether it's a Mark 1 or a Mark 47, they all pretty much look the same. So
I'm pretty lazy. If I could get away with just painting it black in there and covering it up, that'll do me.
Yeah. Well, so I've only done a couple with it open, but I've the rest of them are usually closed. And either currently most of them I've done are on their feet, and I'm starting to do more of them in flight.
Yeah. Brilliant. Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
A quick question for you, Tim. Do you use any type of aftermarket stuff on your Spitfires? I'm thinking that there's something which I recall where I saw something online where it was a full engine build of I think it was a Mark II, and it was absolutely superb. The detail was brilliant. And then I suddenly found out it was 172 scale, which was even better.
Yeah. I don't do that. I generally won't do photo etch unless I will do photo etch if it's required in order to complete the model. Not in terms of detail, but in terms of structural integrity. If they don't provide a plastic part to do it, then I'll use the photo etch. But I don't do things like in 72nd scale, I won't expose an engine. I'll do some work on radial engines because they're quite visible naturally. So I'll put, wires and that kind of stuff and make sure it's painted the right shades and little other details, but not in line. I just typically don't do that.
So it's mainly out of the box with a bit of tweaking.
Right.
Yeah.
And I have, in terms of aftermarket, I'll do things like weapons, wheels and tires if they need to be bulged just a little bit, instead of trying to melt the wheels. That's just something I've never been very successful at. And of course, markings. I got a huge library of decals. I think pretty much whenever there's a Spitfire sheet that comes out, I grab it.
It's got your name on it, Tim.
Yeah.
Can I ask him about if he's seen the Airfix Spitfire, the two-seater that's in the park?
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. I know about it, and I'm certainly going to get one, even though it's the wrong scale, because ultimately I've got a 1/24th scale Mark 8 Airfix that I want to convert to a two-seater, and I also want to kind of take one of the Edward Mark 8s and convert it to a two-seater as well, because I forget who made it. There's only one company's ever made a two-seater in 72nd scale, and it's...
I think it was AZ.
Fine. Yeah,
it was AZ.
Exactly. That's right. That's right.
Didn't Pegasus do one? I seem to remember Pegasus. It was a small cottage industry in the UK. It was literally a fuselage that they actually supplied, but it was a canopies and a fuselage.
Right. Yeah, that would be rough. I've got a couple of Pegasus kits, and I think you'd be doing almost as much work to scratch build one. But yeah, it's so that's. I've seen the kit, but I haven't. I know of the kit. I haven't actually got one in my hands. But as soon as it's available over here in the States, I am gonna get it.
Well, I've got a colour scheme that you probably haven't got on your shelf. It's from the airfield where I'm working at the moment, which during the war was the base for 10 Air Gunnery School. And they had Mark 5Bs. The cannons were removed. The gun sights were removed. They were grey-green camo, but they had black leading edges.
Yeah, I could.
Reason being, the gunnery school was actually teaching air gunners for bombers, etc., to be trained against enemy fighters. And they were using cine film rather than obviously real ammunition against the aircraft. But on the cine film, the yellow leading edges of the spits, when they were actually coming in to attack the aircraft, were actually blending. You couldn't see them on footage. So they actually got a special dispensation from the Air Ministry, and the leading edges of the aircraft were actually all painted black.
That one's good. That one's new to me. I'm going to have to build one of those.
I'll send you. There's only one photograph in existence, and it's in the book about the airfield. But I'll send you a copy across. But it's an ex-US Air Force, US Army Air Force Spit that was actually taken back into RAF service. So where the stars and bars were on the side, it's got an elongated section of grey where they actually didn't bother to put the full camouflage back in. Then you've actually got the black leading edges, so it looks really quite unusual.
Yeah, that is an unusual one. I'm definitely looking forward to making.
Fantastic. Well, unless anyone's got any other questions, he looks for anything.
No.
Tim, thank you very much for being our first guest and guinea pig. And hopefully you will actually not be a stranger and give us updates on a regular basis for MWB and anything else you want to have to chat about in the future.
Sure. Yeah, I'm always available to chat about models and aircraft.
Tim, thank you very much for your time.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you.
Please visit modelpodcast.com, because finding great modelling shows shouldn't be harder than masking a canopy. One website with all the best pods.
Once again, thank you, Tim, for drawing the short straw by becoming our first guest and giving us the world exclusive on the upcoming MWB competition. Right, if you've made it this far and still have paint on your model and your sanity intact, firstly, well done. Secondly, if you fancy joining the madness, we're just a click away. On Facebook, we're Beyond the Box Art. On Instagram, at Beyond the Box Art Pod, where you can find the up-to-date news from manufacturers and suppliers, ask questions, share disasters, or just lurk and silently judge. We salute all types. Oh, and commercial sponsors? Yes, you. If you've got a product or a service or something that might appeal to modelers who spend more time with plastic than people, get in touch. Drop us an email at info@beyondtheboxart.com or ping us on the socials. We're open to ideas, collaborations, and even the occasional bribe. For the full experience, episodes, the background on the team, etc., it's all at www.beyondtheboxart.com. And if you're enjoying the show and want to help us keep the lights on, the glue flowing, and the caffeine stocked, head over to patreon.com/beyondtheboxart. Even the price of a pot of Tamiya paint makes a difference. And no, we won't spend it on decal softener. Probably. If you want to just drop us a line, give us ideas, feedback, or just tell us your cat sat on your half-built Lancaster, email us at info@beyondtheboxart.com. Right then, that's it for this episode. Thanks for sticking with us through sanding, swearing, spraying, and whatever that thing Nevs was building that may float. We'll be back next time with more modelling mayhem, questionable opinions, and at least one completely unnecessary rant about 135th scale aircraft. Joining us for episode 3 will be Luke Slaney-Hewitt, the product manager for aircraft, helicopters and real space at Revell, to talk about all things plastic and what the future holds. He has also promised us a world exclusive announcement on the forthcoming 132nd scale Gloucester Meteor F8. Until then, put the cap back on your glue, don't lick the brushes, and remember, if it looks good from 3 feet away, it's finished. So from Tim,
Bye, everyone.
Mark,
See y'all. Bye now.
Mike,
How all? See you soon.
Nevs,
Signing off on episode 2 of Beyond the Box Art.
and Wongy.
Bye, everyone. And don't forget 60 parts or less.